My name is Courtney Miller. I am a criminal defense attorney, and I live in Arlington Heights, District 7. 6 years ago, I was sitting in my house, in my living room, watching a movie with my boxer, Birdie. The lights were on. I have floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room. The blinds were up. Anybody who walked by would have seen that I was home. At some point, my dog demanded to go out, and I let her back into the backyard and went back to watch my movie. About 5 minutes later, I heard her barking furiously, and I went into the kitchen, into the backyard, where I keep my back door open and my storm door shut. And as I walked to the patio, I saw 2 flashlights flitting across my backyard, in the dark, in the grass. And when I walked out to my patio, I had to yell out, "Who's back there?" And the answer that I got is, "It's the police." I am a white woman in a middle-class neighborhood, and the circumstances of my call, the police were called out to a barking dog, not a welfare call, a barking dog. But the police came onto my property. They started flitting around and creeping around stealthily. They did not come to my front door and announce themselves when anybody could have seen that someone was home. Instead, they flitted around, and they were stealthy, and it wasn't until I cried out that they announced themselves as the police. I am alive, and Tay is not. And that's white privilege right there, because my biggest fear that night was, what if the police shot my dog? And I'm mortified to say that. But after that night, that was my feelings. What if they shot my dog? If I were a black woman in this city, my fear would be, what if they shot me?
Mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. This is Duets Crew, baby. Are we good? We're good? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. This is Real Talk with Azizi. I'm your host, Azizi. We're going to start off with a moment of silence for victims of police brutality, especially those that were murdered. We'll just have a moment of silence. All right, welcome to the show. Again, this is Real Talk with Azizi. I'm your host, Azizi. Just want to give you a little insight about who I am and why this is happening. You know, this has been a long time coming, I feel. This is episode 1. I don't know if there will be an episode 2. So I want to get a lot of information in this show that I can. I'm a realtor in Atlanta. I sell real estate, also investing, also I have my hands in quite a few things, but this is very important to me right now, and that's the reason why we're here, because of you've seen all the news about what's going on in the media. That's my motivation for being here. I don't like to get on camera. I'm not the kind of real estate agent with their face on a business card or that sort of thing. So this is something new for me, and bear with me. We're going to take it slow. But we're going to fit everything in. And the logo in the background is from when I was in the music business. Some of you guys probably know Vending Machine Music, and that's the logo that we use. So it's still a part of my life. Of course, music is still a part of my life, and yeah, it's a major motivating factor, and a lot of the reason why we're here today, and with the cameras and everything. So my motivation for doing this is just with everything going on in the media, I wanted to give a perspective and a little bit of insight, uh, you know, and try to find some solutions, try to find some resolution to all these problems that we have, because I feel like, for everybody that looks like me, because that's what I'm representing. I feel the people that look like me. Um, some of it is our fault. We have to dig deep. Some of it. I mean, if we have to do a percentage, I'll probably put, I don't know, it's a 50-50. I'm not going to say it's all our fault. It's not. And it's not, I'm not going to say it's all the, law enforcement or the judicial system's fault, but we already know the judicial system is not, it's biased. We know that. And now that we know that, I think we need to act accordingly. Everything in the media, uh, everything from the recent situation, Atatiana Jefferson, who was shot in Fort Worth, inside of her house. Um, you have Joshua Brown, and then you have Botham Jean, but it goes further than that. There are so many names, and there are a lot of names that aren't talked about too. I mean, we know of the Michael Browns, and we know of a lot of the famous ones, but there are many others. So kind of want to just get into it. We kind of have to talk about white privilege. What is that? What does it look like? Um, it's a real thing in society, and especially in the judicial system. I believe that, and the evidence is there. I think that it's a real thing. It's a privilege to be white, and so for the folks that look like me, we have to navigate differently. And I believe that there's also black privilege. You have to choose that, though. I mean, it's tough. I like to think I have black privilege, or yeah, I like to think that, So we're going to be talking about a lot of different terminologies, new things. This is all, this is just be prepared, for this information. So there are a lot of things I want to get into. I want to talk about the cases and everything to Joshua Brown and that whole deal. But I want to kind of go into the code. I feel like Tupac is a great example. He had a code back in 1992 called the Code of Thug Life, which is all of the gang members got together and created a code for criminals, in a sense. So there were a lot of things on the code that, like, that kept things in check. So if you're going to be a criminal, you're not going to do drive-bys. You're not going to sell drugs to children. It had a bunch of different rules that all the gang leaders were going to abide by. Of course, he died in 1996, but this was a real code, and it's on the internet. You can see it. It's available for you to see. It's called the Code of Thug Life. So what I would like to do is put together a code for, let's call it the code, the black code, or the code for black people, like how we need to, as a whole, we have to come together, because some of us are acting this way. Some of us are acting, far right, far left. Let's come together. And, so some of the things I want to talk about are what I feel should be a part of the code, and one of them is how to behave And pardon my, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to say people are misbehaving or anything like that, but how to act when you get pulled over, you know. We've all been pulled over. I've been pulled over before, and I've been arrested. And maybe it wasn't warranted. Some of it was warranted. I feel like my attitude was definitely a defensive one. And that's one thing we need to we shouldn't be defensive. I don't think that the police, the majority of them, I do not feel that they are coming in a defensive way towards us. I believe that they're coming, whatever they say towards us, and then we say back, that's how they're going to react from that point. So if we're defensive, we need to, if we need to stop with that. There's no reason to be defensive with the first thing that you say to a police officer when you get pulled over. When I get pulled over, because I've been pulled over a lot recently in the past few years, and I haven't had a ticket. I haven't got a ticket. And I used to attribute it to the fact that I had a BMW, but and that rhymed too. That was interesting to rhyme. The fact that I had a BMW, but I believe it was because of the attitude that I had inside of the BMW. The BMW is just a BMW, because I've heard everybody's heard stories about police pulling over black men in nice cars and that sort of thing and harassing them. But I haven't had that experience. And my car is not, a Rolls Royce, but it's a pretty nice vehicle for me. And so a little bit above average. So, like I said, it's the way your attitude in the beginning matters, So my attitude when I'm pulled over, I get a little nervous. Of course, everybody gets a little nervous. I mean, it's police, and it's designed that way. I feel to kind of rattle you a little. So I like to have everything ready. My license, everything. I roll down my window and have my license outside of the vehicle, okay? When he gets out of the car. When he gets out of the car, he's walking up, my hand is out the window with my license, okay? Number one. My attitude is, it's all good. Everything is all good, I mean, if you're not doing anything wrong, then there's no reason to be defensive. There's no reason. So I believe if you start off with that, it'll end up okay for the majority of the time. Sometimes you do have those rogue cops and prejudiced cops. But what can you do about those? I'm definitely don't get defensive with those guys. You know what I mean? So yeah. Another thing is, like, for instance, if you're at Chick-fil-A, wherever you are, restaurant, in the parking lot, police officer rolls up, maybe they're parked, and they say something to you. Again, you can't take it in a defensive way. This happened to me recently. I was with my wife. We were at Chick-fil-A, and there was a police officer there in his vehicle. His window was rolled down. I got out of the car. We got out of the car. We started walking toward the establishment. We're in the parking lot, and the police officer says something to the effect of, "That's a nice car." Something like, "Can I get that car?" Something like that. He said. It was a white police officer too. So immediately, what I did was took out my keys. I took out my key from my pocket, and I just did like that, And he was, maybe 30 feet away, okay? But took out my keys and said, "Here you go, man." Simple as that. Put a smile on his face. He said something else. We laughed, whatever. and we were able to go into the restaurant, and it was all good. You see what I'm saying? So, but of course, if you're defensive, you could see that as a threat. You could immediately see it as a threat. Like, why does he want why is he even saying that? Why is he even talking to me? That is what's going to make them investigate further. You see? So you don't want to give them a reason. That's the whole point. Don't give them a reason to investigate further. All right? So that's really all I have to talk about regarding the code. I want to talk about a few other things. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is an organization. I do know a little bit about the founding of the organization, but I don't want to talk about that so much as in just the Black Lives Matter, the theme. What is the theme of Black Lives Matter? And it's tough because it goes back to people that look like me. People that look like me. It's a stereotype that blacks and this is not necessarily for people that look like me. This is for other folks. Blacks are stereotyped to be everyone sees us as criminals. That's the first feeling that they get, in terms of, this guy's a criminal. It's like, but it's not true. Most of us aren't criminals. That's the point. And why are all these people getting shot to death? And they weren't criminals. They were just regular people. But the police assumed. See, the police are always assuming that we are criminals. So Black lives do matter. And it's a tragedy that the stereotype is to the point where innocent blacks are getting murdered every week, or it's crazy, the statistics. I have we can talk about the statistics. This is from mappingpoliceviolence.org. So there's a website that maps all of the killings and, any type of police violence in all of America. Okay. There's also a crime mapping, which is crime mapping is if someone gets robbed or if a murder happens, it shows up on this map. Anytime a police report is filed, it shows up. So this is a mapping not about civilians so much, but this is about the police killing, and the statistics are crazy. In 2018, 1,164 people were shot and killed by police. In 2017, 1,147. So the number is increasing. Now, the crazy thing is that 25% of those that were killed were black, which doesn't make sense because we are only 13% of the population. So that's just, So I'll read through some of the other statistics. Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed than whites, according to these statistics. 21% of black victims were unarmed, compared to 14% of whites. And then where you live also matters. Reno is, Reno is crazy. Santa Ana, Oklahoma City, Georgia is actually low on the list, believe it or not. And let's see, where else? Las Vegas, Orlando. They're under the average for U.S. Murder rates. But, above that, The cities that are above the U.S. murder rate are Reno is the top, Santa Ana, Scottsdale, Arizona, Oklahoma City, St. Louis. Yeah. So where you live matters. Where you live matters. For instance, Buffalo, New York, the population is 258,000. Percent non-white is 50. 0 people were killed from 2013 to 2016. Now, Orlando, Florida, similar population, 255,000. Percent of non-white, 42%. So it's less, actually. But 15 people were killed in Orlando from 2013 to 2016. So another statistic is about the accountability for the police. Only 99%, and this is a 2015 study, 99% of the cases have not resulted in any officer involved being convicted of a crime. So 99% of these cases, they just go. It doesn't, like they go back to work, to do it again, I guess. So, I mean, that's enough with statistics. It's just, it's sad, it's really sad because everyone looks like me. And, for the most part. And so these numbers reflect it's a lot more than just a few people that you're seeing in the news and on the internet. They only choose a few, but it's a lot more than that. It's an epidemic. I mean, it's a tragedy. So let's move on. Let's talk about arming yourself. That's a part of it. I feel that you're free to arm yourself. You have the freedom to bear arms, okay? But I believe that for the folks that look like me, you are making it a little more difficult for yourself, I believe, if you carry a weapon. I don't think that it's to interact with a police officer with a weapon and you look like me. I don't know. I would say it's better to not have a weapon. So, and that could be something to go back to with the code. You have to, we have to think ahead of time and really prepare ourselves. If you're going to be armed, understand you can't move the same way. You have to move a little different if you have a weapon. I mean, if you're carrying. So we could talk about the cases now. These cases were very upsetting to me. And what really hit me was the Joshua Brown situation. And because when they said who killed him, it didn't make sense to me. And it didn't make sense to a lot of people. This happened, a week? I don't know how many days ago that it happened, but they found out very quickly who the murderers were. And I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Just like the Central Park Five, I think that's the name of those guys that were wrongly convicted. They confessed too. They confessed that they did that murder, and they didn't. So I believe this is the same situation. 12 pounds of marijuana in an apartment doesn't make sense to me. It also doesn't make sense that you have someone under investigation for a year. He's in court testifying against a police officer, and they didn't find out that he's a drug dealer. I mean, I don't know how much 12 pounds is, but that's a lot, especially if you live in an apartment. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And it really hurts, because what are they covering up? What are they, the guy that died in his apartment eating ice cream, watching Netflix, why did that happen? Why did it happen? Why did the murder happen? Let's look at the testimony. Let's look at everything that we saw. But what really happened there? I mean, common sense. Put it together. She lived underneath him. Joshua Brown's testimony was that he was singing. There was never, they had a noise complaint. The leasing office came to their door the same day that it happened. And there was a noise complaint. Anonymous. Come on, man. So we all know what happened. She got rid of him because he was singing, or he was making noise above her in his apartment. That's really why he was murdered. Now, why was Joshua Brown murdered? And that's why this is a very big issue for me, because Joshua Brown had nothing to do with anything. He was just a neighbor. And now he's murdered because he was a witness. These are crazy times that we're living in, where, law enforcement will go to these lengths to cover up something. They will kill people to cover up. It's almost like like they're a gang. That's what people in the mafia do. That's what gangbangers do. It's the same rules. And I feel like even snitching is the same rules. And that could be the real reason why Joshua Brown was murdered. But he wasn't snitching. I'm sure that they came to his apartment after the murder and said, "Did you see anything?" So this is another part of our code. Okay. I feel like we shouldn't cooperate with police as a people, because you might become a Joshua Brown. You might end up murdered, and you might end up, because let's say you had a joint, you had one blunt in your apartment. Now they're saying you're the biggest drug dealer. You have 12 pounds. You see what I'm saying? So it gives them a right, and it's a discredit also. They're discrediting you. But the media, we can't blame the media so much. The media is just reporting what was reported, by the police. So the police investigate, and the media asks them. So it's not really the media's fault. Now, some media is slanted, some media is biased, yes. But overall, they're getting this information from the police, and then they're picking and choosing what to release to the public. You have to look at everything. We can't just look at what Fox said, or we can't just look at what WB or whatever channel. We can't just look at, one aspect of it. We have to look at the whole picture, And I saw all the testimony. So I have a very clear understanding, and my synopsis with the case is based on everything that I've seen. I haven't, I'm not pulling ideas out of the air, and I'm a crazy person. This is what drug dealer, okay, has 12 pounds where he sleeps. First of all, you have 12 pounds of marijuana where you sleep, number one. Number two, you were killed at your place of residence. So you did a deal at your place of residence. I thought drug dealers don't, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So he was murdered going to the car. There was no
And now that I think about it, the gentleman that was shot was probably shot by the police. I mean, honestly, and forced to confess, or they had $100,000 reward. I don't know if you guys remember that. There was $100,000 reward for information. Now, the reason why they have $100,000 reward for information is to find out who knows what. It's just a like a hook to get people to call in so that they know who knows what. It's just, did they give anybody 100,000? No. It was just something to get people's attention. And if you're dumb enough to call, again, you're cooperating. We need to stop cooperating. When I saw movies and they would say, I didn't see anything. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see nothing. Now you know why. I thought it was just like some some street code thing, but it's really to protect you from being an innocent bystander who is either, falsely accused of something or murdered, and then falsely accused of being a drug dealer when you die. Because so many cases, Trayvon Martin, all of these cases, if you think about it, they always discredit who was murdered. Trayvon Martin, I think, had marijuana in his backpack or something. It's always like a marijuana thing, or, he had drugs in his system. They're always like trying to justify it. And it needs to stop, but it probably won't stop. But we have to do what we can to prevent it from happening. And I feel like these things, the things that we're talking about here today, can prevent future occurrences from happening, at least a little. I mean, not overall. Again, the girl that was shot through the window recently in Fort Worth, I mean, what can you do to avoid that? She was just at home playing video games at 2:00 in the morning. That was the only crime that was committed, was that she was at home playing video games. And I saw the body cam footage from that situation as well. I didn't hear any music on, or, it wasn't like they were making noise. So it's just really sad. So, but I kind of wanted to, bring this to light. And these are things that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And, it's concerning, not only for me, but, I have 2 sons and they look like me. And so we have to be smarter. We have to be smarter. And, when we're navigating in this world, and I don't mean for this to be so serious. I'm a funny guy. I like to even think I'm a comedian sometimes. But this is a serious topic, and it deserved to be addressed. And so again, I don't know if I'll have another episode. I don't know if this may be the only show. And if it is the only show, it makes sense for it to be the only show, because this is more important than anything. Our survival. In this world and in America, because I feel like this issue that we have is an American issue. It's not something that, we're here, we're not in other countries. We're right here in America. And this is an issue that we have, and not necessarily people that look like me. Well, it's not necessarily about like Africans or like, any other darker, Indians, or, it's really about Black Americans, because we are the ones that have been victimized the most. And we are also the ones who respond the most defensive. We are the most defensive, So I believe that, and we are the ones that are getting killed and at the hands of law enforcement. So we need to get smarter, and we need to understand that life's not fair. This is my skin. It is what it is. I'm not. We could do a whole Michael Jackson thing and try to change it if we had money, but this is what it is. You know what I mean? So I believe that no one's Michael Jackson. I mean, Michael Jackson is there. That's one man. And the solution is not to lighten your skin. I believe the solution is to be smarter and figure out how to navigate, not only for yourself, but for your children, for your family. I think it's important. So thank you for tuning in. I hope it wasn't, too, I hope it was worth your time. And I hope that you take this, and develop your own code or add to it. We can amend this and continue to add more because it's important. And I only talked about a few things regarding the code, but it can be, I want to hear what you guys think. And if you have suggestions about more rules to the code, please comment and let me know. But thank you for tuning in. Again, this is Real Talk with Azizi, episode 1. Peace.